Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this first installment of the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning speaker series. Our plan is to invite experts from a variety of backgrounds to share their insights, experiences, and wisdom with our college learning community. I want to express my continued gratitude to Chair Naveed and Dr. Feldman, co-chairs of the Research Committee, for all of their efforts to make this event possible, as well as our accomplished guest speaker for her time and willingness to share with us today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chair Naveed to introduce our guest and get us started.
Thank you, Dr. Burnett. So we're excited to have Danielle join us. Just a little bit about her background. She is the editor of the Journal of Financial Planning. She's been part of the financial services editing area for the last 15 years. Previously, she was the managing editor for Investment Advisor magazine, and she worked with Think Advisor as well. And I'm just really excited to have Danielle here. She oversees the editing process for one of our larger journals in our industry. So Danielle, welcome, and we're looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Hi, everyone. As Kron said, my name's Danielle. I've been with the journal for about 4 years now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the journal and what we do, what we're trying to accomplish, and then I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone has. So a little bit about us. The journal is a monthly digital practitioner journal. It provides financial planners with thought leadership and peer-reviewed research. We call ourselves a practitioner journal because we're a little different from strictly academic journals or from trade publications like Think Advisor and Investment Advisor. We publish peer-reviewed research in every issue, but we also have non-peer-reviewed thought leadership type of content. And we're not doing any kind of like breaking news types of things or industry updates that you might see in a trade publication. We are trying to connect current events to practice, but we're really focused on that practical aspect of financial planning research and what planners can take away from it and start implementing with their clients and in their practices. And the journal is available as a digital flip book. We also have HTML versions of articles. We have an app. We compile the peer-reviewed research into a print publication that goes out to FPA members every quarter. It's called the JFP Research Quarterly. And if you are an FPA member and your address is up to date in your profile, then you will have already seen that. We launched that in 2023. The journal is the official member publication for the Financial Planning Association. So our current membership, so it is technically only available to members. Our current membership is a little over 17,000 people. Most of those are CFPs, but we do have academic members and retired practitioner members, as well as our aspiring member class who may not have their CFP yet. They're working toward it, but they are still a student or a career changer. As a member publication, a lot of our work is only accessible by FPA members, but we do make things public occasionally. For example, if an author reaches out and wants a shareable link, we'll usually just give that to them. A lot of our older content, like our really old content, is available open online. So that's why you see our average monthly readers is a little higher than our current membership, because there are some open articles that get a little bit of a wider view. Journal content tends to have a really long lifespan. People read stuff, they come back and read it many months after it's been published. I routinely see that traffic to our website, 25 to 30% of it is to an article that's not in the current issue. So people are coming back and reading stuff on a regular basis. Just a little bit of history. So as I mentioned, the journal is the official member publication for FPA, but it actually predates FPA. It was founded in 1979 as the journal for the Institute of Certified Financial Planners, and then it was renamed in 1988. And then when the FPA was formed with the merger of ICFP and IAFP, it became the official member publication for FPA. I put a few examples up there of notable articles that we've published over the years. These are just examples of the kinds of work that we're looking to publish for our readers, is stuff that has that really practical, purposeful impact that they can start implementing in their practice and in their strategizing with clients. A little bit here about our bigger mission and vision. So we share FPA's vision of financial planning as a true profession. And a cornerstone of that is a credible body of knowledge. So our mission is really to expand the body of financial planning knowledge so that financial planners can serve their clients at the highest levels of competency and ethics. So that's what we're really looking content-wise to publish, is stuff that can go out and can really contribute to the work that planners are doing. And some of the ways we do that I have some editorial and volunteer opportunities, because financial planners and academics drive a lot of the editorial in the journal. Most contributors are either planners themselves or academics, or they're working in firms that support planners. Some of the types of content that you'll find in the journal include letters to the editor and op-eds. We have features and columns. Features are longer, more comprehensive looks at a particular topic. Columns are a little more granular. We have a stable of about 12 columnists who rotate through every quarter. And then, of course, the peer-reviewed research, which is a super important part of what we offer to our readers. And as I mentioned a little earlier, that's also compiled in that print publication that people get every quarter. A little more about our volunteers. Our volunteers are, from the beginning, we have been supported by a practitioner and an academic editor, which we work with them bi-weekly to review content and make sure that it has that really relevant, specific focus for practitioners, make sure that everything we're publishing is going to help financial planners. It's also, providing sound guidance. It's accurate. We have 2 editorial advisory boards. These boards provide quarterly feedback for us, just having a really formal feedback loop where we're hearing from practitioners about feedback on recent issues. They're helping us brainstorm story ideas, uncover the kinds of questions that planners have that we can help answer for them. And then our peer review board, which reviews research manuscripts after they've passed an initial desk review with editorial staff and our academic editor. That is everything I had prepared. I would love to take any questions that anyone has. Readers are my first stakeholder. Everything that we publish is with an eye for how it will help financial planners be better planners, be better firm leaders, just work with their clients better. But writers are my second stakeholder. I'm definitely a writer's writer. I know how hard it is, and I want to work with writers as much as I can to help them put their best work out there. So if you have a story idea and you would like to just get some feedback on it, or if you have a draft and you want to get some direction before you submit it to the journal, I'm happy to support writers in whatever way that I can. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to Karam and to the Center for Excellence in Teaching for having me today. And thank you all for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle. I'm sure we'll get some questions. I certainly have a few, but I want to invite any of my colleagues if they have any questions, learning more about the editorial process at JFP. While we wait, I will jump in with a few that we discussed earlier. And essentially, you see, Danielle, you see a lot of submissions. And as you think through advice for people who are wanting to do peer review research and use JFP as an outlet, what general advice would you have for us who want to take part in that process?
Us, because we are focused on that practitioner, we're really looking for work with really clear practical implications. That's probably the most common feedback we have for researchers, especially if they haven't written for the journal before. When they submit a manuscript, we'll go back and spend to add a section on practical implications. If you're writing research papers, you're used to writing a discussion section. So for the journal, we also want to see that include a section with actionable recommendations or use cases. There's something that shows planners in a really clear, concrete way how your findings and your research are going to affect them.
Sure. Yeah, that's wonderful. And then could you also go in length and talk about the feature versus the peer review side of things? Certainly, you talked about thought leadership. Our faculty here, we are more practice oriented just because of our history and what we focus on. So I was curious if that would lend itself better to thought leadership, and how do you see that flow through to the journal?
Yeah, so the peer-reviewed research is more as empirical research as opposed to features which someone might write. You might take a manuscript that you've written either in the journal or for another publication and base an additional piece of writing on that. The features don't go through a peer review process, but they do get a really rigorous editorial process with the practitioner editor and with the editorial staff. That's myself and my associate editor, Bridger Cummings. So those topics, in a feature, it might be a little more, there won't have methods and limitations and that kind of like extra academic rigor that you would find. It'd be a little more, I want to say casual, but a little more approachable, stripped of some of the academic jargon and really focusing on a really specific aspect of your research or even multiple sources of research.
Yes, going along there would could it be a good introduction potentially? So, just a year or so ago, I would feel very hesitant to submit something. I'm not sure where it should go, and maybe it's missing the method section like you talked about. What is sort of your audience, not necessarily audience, the people who are submitting the feature versus the peer review journal? Could that be seen as maybe a first pass at a topic or a research question that may get further developed towards a peer review article submission?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely see the non-peer-reviewed submissions that we get tend to be more from the practitioner side than academics. That's not strictly true. We definitely have a lot of academics who submit something that they haven't done the level of empirical work that goes into a research project and then the manuscript that comes out of that. So they're more, putting a theory out there and they haven't necessarily done that research project that goes behind it.
Yeah, got it. And I'll certainly invite any of my colleagues if they have questions, but one last thing I really would like to know is how many submissions do you get for each of those? I don't know if you're able to provide acceptance rate or how many people make it through to the final publication between the feature versus peer-reviewed area.
I don't have an acceptance rate for the non-peer-reviewed work. Our acceptance rate on manuscripts is it was 30% last year. I don't have a number for 2025 yet. I haven't tracked an acceptance rate for the features and other sorts of non-peer-reviewed work.
But would you say would you say it'd be okay to assume it might be higher, slightly higher, maybe?
Probably because we do, on the practitioner side, we get a lot of stuff from people who, for example, as an editor, my name ends up on a lot of PR lists. So we get a lot of people who are just trying to get their clients published. It's really not right for what we're doing in the journal. So the acceptance rate would actually be lower because we're rejecting a lot of stuff that is just coming from, I don't want to say bots, but people who aren't thinking about who is actually going to read their work.
Got it. Perfect. I'll take a pause here and see if any of my rest of colleagues have any questions about JFP.
Hi, yeah, so Tom Robinson. I'm just looking at some recent issues, and it looks like you have about one research article per issue, and then about a 3-to-1 ratio with the other features. So just sort of working backwards, do you then typically get about 3 dozen submissions a year, working from your 30% ratio? And then what's the typical length of the process from first submission until a research article is accepted?
So your guess is probably pretty accurate. It's at least a couple dozen submissions. And then as far as timing, we try to get an initial response back to submitter within 2 weeks to let them know we've got it, we're going to review it, or it's not, it's just not right. We can tell right away. From there, once we have accepted it in for review, it's about 3 weeks to a month. There are some things that can slow us down. If we have FPA has our annual conference at the end of the year, that slows us down a little. Our academic editors, sometimes they get delayed with certain things. So every once in a while, there might be a lag there, and we try to communicate with researchers when that happens because we know you'll want to get published. So we try to keep you all in the fold.
And is there a separate submission process for features versus peer-reviewed articles?
So typically, if you're submitting for research, you will send it to my associate editor, Bridger Cummings. But if you do send it to me, we talk to each other every day. We'll get it to the right place. The review process is a little different with research because it does have that, after the initial desk review, it'll go to peer review. The non-peer reviewed research or submission process, excuse me, it's a little faster because we don't have that long feedback period.
Thank you.
And could you just define those terms, desk reject versus further reject and so forth, sort of the entire process there?
Yeah, so the desk review is when the editorial staff, myself and Bridger, and then our academic editor, which till the end of this year is Derek Lawson at KSU. We'll all do a review together and just decide if we want to take it on to peer review. Sometimes that meeting we are ready to send it to peer review right away. Sometimes we go back to the writers and say we like it, but there are a few things that we think will give it a fairer shot when the peer reviewers see it. And some things just aren't a fit, and we can reject it right away, and you can take it on to the next publication.
So many years ago, I've been away from the FPA for a while because I was in another role, but I'm just getting back into it. Harold Levinsky used to do a regular column where he would take academic research from lots of different journals, including finance journals, and put them in plain English. So he had a regular column in the journal where he basically was translating academic research for practitioners. Do you guys do anything like that today?
We have done it, and we have done a couple one-offs. I've had trouble finding someone who's willing to do that on a regular basis because I love that idea. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with the practical implications is don't have that regular, column version like the shortened summary and the plain English. We are trying to bring that into a very practical use so that planners can just start using it right away. Because we know practitioners are are busy and there's a lot of work that they're trying to get done, and it can be hard to parse through some academic language.
I'm hopeful a couple of my colleagues might be interested in something like that because very experienced, very knowledgeable people are on the call. If other people don't have any questions, I'll just ask a few more.
I have a question, actually.
Please.
And it's a very selfish question, Danielle, but I heard you mention at the beginning of your presentation that the review has a couple of advisory boards that work on providing insights on a kind of a quarterly basis. We're in the process of getting advisory boards established here at the college. And I was just wondering if you could share some insights about what those meetings look like, what those conversations are about, how the advisory boards help the journal moving forward, just your general take on how the advisory boards function in that capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. The advisory boards have been super helpful because they comprise practitioners and a couple of academics, people who are actually out doing the work of financial planning. And they provide a really excellent viewpoint on what is helpful because, you know, I've been covering financial services for a long time, but I'm not a planner. I'm not actually the one doing the work. So having someone who really is intimately familiar with how it works is really, they provide really invaluable insight. So we meet quarterly. Each group meets separately for 30 to 45 minutes on a virtual call. What I'm looking for in really good board members are people who are really engaged in the industry. So they're people who talk to other planners who are doing, you know, they have their own practices and they're building businesses. So they can come and bring that insight with, these are the things that I'm talking to my peers about. These are the things that are on my mind. They provide feedback on recent issues, but they're also helping us look forward at, as I mentioned earlier, the questions that planners have that we can answer for them. So they're sharing conversations where, you know, these are the same kind of concerns that they've had with in conversations with their peers, or they met someone who had a really interesting take on something and they think they would be a good source for us to talk to or invite to contribute. And then where I'm looking for board members is, you know, there are a lot of different sources, but people who are doing writing and speaking, people who are talking to each other on our Connect forum. FPA has an internal member forum, so people who participate there have been providing really helpful insight and helping find new members.
Thank you very much for that description. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Hey, Danielle, I've noticed a lot of the articles that get published recently than they used to some time ago have multiple authors. And, you know, just I'm trying to learn and see what a good research team looks like. I often see complementing skills. Could you talk about, is that something you see as well? And you know, your insight into research teams versus individual contributors and so forth.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I'm someone who believes that no one really does anything alone. And those complementary skills that you bring to a good research team are really helpful in helping find those insights that that contribute to a really full and well-written paper. As compared to papers with single authors, I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say as one is better than the other. I think it really depends on what you're writing about and the scope of your research project. A bigger research project will benefit from having multiple perspectives. A smaller project can probably be done by one person.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Could you also talk about the peer review? I assume it's blind and so forth, that process. Reason why I ask is I had some, and I've had the fortune to have something accepted at JFP, but I've also had the bad luck of getting something rejected. And if it's Dr. Lawson, who's, you know, I'm going to talk to him. Yeah, he's one of my supervisors. But I'm just curious, how does that process work through?
Yeah, we use a double-blind peer review process. So reviewers don't see the author's names, and we share the feedback from the reviewers with the authors, but without their names. So no one knows who is saying what. That way reviewers can be a little critical, you know, we're not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but we do want to put the best work out there, so they can provide really comprehensive feedback. This is a small profession, so especially when the more you get published, the more your work is recognized. So, you know, if you have a very distinctive style, someone might be like, oh yeah, that's definitely Caron's work right there. But it is a double-blind peer review process. We get 2 to 3 reviewers for every manuscript. That kind of depends on the topic of the paper. If we don't have an expert or someone who's really expert in that field, we might have only 2 reviewers instead of 3. Yeah, that's all.
Great. I'll invite my colleagues to see if you guys have any additional questions for Danielle.
I have another one, Danielle. If there are folks that would be interested ultimately in serving as a reviewer, a manuscript reviewer, I know we have just so many incredibly capable and supremely talented faculty. How does that transition work from, you know, publishing to then serving as a manuscript reviewer?
Yeah, always happy to for any introductions for potential reviewers. We have a form to send to reviewers and ask them what are your areas of interest and expertise. We'll do what we can to make sure that you only see those papers. Occasionally you might have one that's a little outside your field. We don't prohibit reviewers from also contributing. Obviously, we won't send your work to a co-author, or we try to avoid even sending it to people who are at the same university. It's not always possible, but we make an effort. But any of the volunteers who work with the journal are also, they can still write. Like, as I said, this is a small profession, and I'm not gonna gatekeep people from contributing to it just because they're volunteering, but they will get the same sort of review as anyone else.
Thank you.
And just a final comment for me, could you also talk about the audience being practitioners and the broader impact it can potentially have? We have this idea of citations and academics reading our paper, but how JFP is potentially more impactful because it's going to translate to advisors who will take it forward to their clients and make actual impact, which may not be captured by, you know, the typical metrics of citations and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as a member publication, you know, we do have a little bit of limited access. We don't have an impact factor because we're not in the credit system. But the people who read it, most of our members are practitioners. They're mostly CFPs, but not all of them. So they are the people who are actually going to be taking their work and applying it to practice and using it with clients. So there's really the potential to have a real impact on everyday people by bringing that work to financial strategies that are getting implemented with clients.
Great, thank you. I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Burnett, because as anyone can tell on the call, if you don't stop me, I'll just keep asking more and more questions. But if it'd be okay, Danielle, you already shared your email, but would it be okay if any faculty member has a question, they can reach out to you?
Happy to.
Perfect. Well, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us. We really appreciate all the insight. And I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Burnett.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in closing, on behalf of all of us at the college, thank you so much to our esteemed guest. This was a fantastic way to start our new speaker series initiative. So thank you again for leading today's discussion. And thank you to everyone who was able to join us and participate today. Please be on the lookout for communications regarding future editions of the speaker series in the upcoming months. So thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. So take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.